are these people?
We're gonna get into some funniness with Ezra Klein. No, it's more like with Zay Squirrel. All right. I read this article and I started to chuckle, and I'm like, oh my God. Now,
you read?
This is the Zay Squirrel. I think a lot of people know who Zay Squirrel is. At Zay_Squirrel on Twitter. They're on Telegram. She's on Telegram. She's also has Discord. Very fiery about Israel. But wrote this article about Ezra Klein. And I was like, I remember Ezra Klein, that sweet,
I don't.
Nerdy glasses guy. Well, he was a frequent guest on Rachel Maddow back in the shitlib days when when a lot of us were shitlibs. All right. So
Can I go back to not knowing?
He was a frequent egg-headed guest who then was a co-founder of Vox. All right. When Vox launched, this was one of the guys that launched it. Thanks so much for foisting that neoliberal piece of shit on us. And then he, of course, found his natural home with the New York Times because shitlibs of a feather flock together. So he recently did a podcast with Ta-Nehisi Coates. So in his interview, Ezra Klein repeatedly, over and over again, launders the ongoing genocide by blaming Palestinians for it. Naturally, he's a Zionist. He does this through the term agency, his favorite liberal and pseudo-intellectual buzzword used to justify all their genocidal mania. Like I said, we're going to have some fun. We're going to air this one out. This is the magic of agency. It turns everything into whatever you want while pretending you're making an objective, fair, and reasonable analytical point. Welcome to Democratic, talking speak in 101. It allows you to posture as intellectually honest and serious. That's who Ezra Klein is. He's the paragon of moral virtue, the quintessential New York Times liberal. He determines what's just and unjust for the world today and throughout history. The Ezra Kleins embody virtue. They love to virtue signal. So, are Palestinians being subjected to genocide by Ezra Kleins? Well, that in their moral framework is virtue. That is moral necessity. That is the height of morality itself. Because why? Because agency. A pseudo-intellectual concept I've thoroughly dismantled before. Hamas did it. It's all because of Hamas and the Palestinian resistance. And if it weren't for them and their agency, there wouldn't be a genocide right now. And you couldn't possibly deny agency, so you should all agree that the genocide is actually moral and good and civilized, right? Here's the problem, Ezra. Jews had agency under Nazi Germany, by that definition. You can't deny that. In fact, they had more agency in Weimar Germany leading up to Nazi rule than Palestinians have ever had under Israeli genocidal apartheid. There were Jewish ministers in government, like Rudolf Hilferding. Jews were leading political figures in major political parties like the Social Democrats, which were governing parties. The Weimar Constitution itself was drafted by Jewish lawyer Hugo Preuss. Leading scientists and scholars at the top German universities included Jews like Einstein, I've heard of him, and Husserl, right? There was a ton of agency here, right, Ezra? And yet Hitler rose to power. The Nazis took control and instituted anti-Semitic policies that eventually led to the Holocaust. So, by your logic then, the logic you apply to Palestinians who dare resist their genocide, their occupation, their apartheid, you ascribe such great power to agency that you make it the casual element behind their destruction. By that standard then, and this might get me in trouble some places, Jews in Nazi Germany caused their own genocide. Jews in Weimar had significant agency. There were Jews in the Soviet Union, right? There were Jews in the Soviet Union in top positions with agency, right? Jews in the U.S. had agency, and by your framework, that agency must have casually influenced the rise of the Nazi movement and the broader views of the German public. You can't deny all that. You can't deny all that agency. That's a part of reality, right, Ezra? I said we're going to air this one out. And this is very tongue-in-cheek, but surely it must have played a role in shaping Nazi ideology, just as you claim Palestinian resistance is responsible for Israeli genocide. The Nazis had a significant portion of the German public believed that Jews wielded their agency in nefarious ways. This mirrors the Israeli Zionist perspective, which holds that Palestinians are subhuman and that their mere resistance justifies extermination, on top of the fact that they accuse them of lying about all of the atrocities that are being committed against them. Yet Ezra refuses to analyze these claims historically. In fact, he explicitly told Ta-Nehisi Coates that we shouldn't, that we must engage only with feelings and lived experiences, which are raw and impervious to real history and facts and objective reality. Now feelings are more important than facts. It's very interesting. We must accept the genocidal Zionist Israeli perspective as the universal reality, because agency, that is the Israeli agency, which we are also not allowed to deny. So why do you not extend that logic to the Nazis and to their lived experiences with Jews? The Nazis also had agency. This is the hard, like, again, I can't even say, like, as a Jewish guy, it hurts to even say this, but it's so embarrassing that Ezra would position himself that he would be criticized like this. It's got to be done. The German public that supported the Nazi movement had agency. They had lived experiences, which, by your own logic, should be considered separate from historical analysis and objective reality, just as you insist we do for Israel's genocide. I mean, my head is hurting here.
Is it?
A little bit. So let's set aside history for a moment, as you demand we do for your precious Israeli death and rape cult. Allegedly, but not allegedly. Let's apply your own logic to Nazi Germany, which murdered your people, Ezra. And when we do, we must conclude by necessity, as dictated by our acceptance of agency, that the Jews were responsible for their own genocide, much more so than Palestinians could be, given their comparatively lower level of agency leading up to and after the Nakba. Anyone who says this is a moral monster. They're a Nazi. This is literally what Nazis say, except they didn't have the pseudo-intellectual, incoherent term agency to launder it. How convenient. Do you see what this liberal Zionist moral universe actually consists of when you apply it universally rather than just to their precious genocidal Israel death and rape cult? When you turn it back on them? It's literal Nazism. It's pure, unfiltered Nazism. I don't even know what that means, but okay, squirrel. And yes, it is true. Ezra Klein, the good liberal at the New York Times, along with Noah Smith, Matthew Iglesias, Jeffrey Goldberg, all these good liberal Zionists are modern-day Nazis. And they rule over the U.S. NATO-Israeli empire, the Fourth Reich. That is the reality of our situation. At least from the squirrel's perspective, which I agree with, by the way. To be clear, everything Ezra Klein says in that interview is a brazen, shameless lie. He paints the Palestinian resistance, including Hamas, as a rabid, irrational, subhuman beast purely out for death and destruction. He inverts reality to launder Zionism as detailed in this thread, which includes a detailed overview by Coulter Lurwers of the many times Hamas has offered a diplomatic resolution by including laying down their arms, which has been repeatedly refused by Israel.
In recent weeks, the Joe Biden administration has claimed that once the current crisis in Gaza is over, it's going to revive, quote unquote, concerted efforts at establishing a two-state resolution to the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's been all the more vehement, however, that there is no place for Hamas in this two-state settlement.
Can't even say it right.
You know the argument, Hamas is committed to destroying the state of Israel, therefore Hamas itself must be destroyed. Therefore, the genocide in Gaza must continue if we ever want to see any peace in the region. Claims like this, blaming the Palestinian leadership for the Israel-Palestine conflict's infamous intractability, are of course not new. Decades ago, the Israeli foreign minister, Abba Eban, claimed that, quote, the Palestinian leadership has never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity for peace. Now, as my chapter in Deluge attempts to demonstrate, the main problem with this claim is that it's completely contradicted by the factual record. In reality, both the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO, and then after it, Hamas, have, with varying degrees of clarity, endorsed a two-state resolution to the conflict, whereas Israel, of course backed unilaterally by the United States, has persistently rejected such a resolution in favor of territorial expansion, and has in fact resorted often to very bloody military assaults in order to derail the threat of Palestinian peace offensives. If you take the PLO, in the aftermath of the June 1967 war, the PLO initially rejected recognition of Israel for perfectly understandable reasons. They did not want to accept a state that had been established on 78% of historic Palestine via the dispossession and displacement of the indigenous Palestinian people. And yet, from the early 1970s, particularly after the October 1973 war, Yasser Arafat and the core Palestinian leadership recognized that legitimizing Palestinian claims in the eyes of the international community would necessitate the pragmatic step of recognizing Israel. And already in January of 1976, the PLO offered to do just that at the United Nations Security Council. Predictably, the United States reacted by vetoing the resolution. Israel, for its part, refused to take part in the Security Council deliberations and carried out airstrikes in Lebanon against Palestinian refugees, killing dozens.
Like you
and
do.
As this pattern of Israeli behavior became more and more manifest in the late 1970s, American officials came to observe that Israeli strikes in South Lebanon had very little to do with the supposed threat of Palestinian terror, and in fact everything to do with attempting to batter the Palestinians out of their moderation and back into extremism. The apex of this strategy was, of course, the June 1982 Israeli invasion of Lebanon, in which, for fear of the fact that the Palestine Liberation Organization had accepted a ceasefire and scrupulously adhered to it for over a year, and
they attacked the army barracks.
Was advocating negotiations once again. Israel steamrolled
in the
into
airports,
Lebanon, killing 15,000 to 20,000 Palestinians and Lebanese.
I love how he just glosses over that.
25 years.
Wait a minute.
And Israel
just killed 15 to 20,000 Lebanese. Like, it's just accepted. Yep. And
today, or not today, but in 2006 and after, carried out the exact same plague book in relation to its to the threat of Hamas peace offensives. Elected in January 2006 on a reform platform, Hamas very quickly signaled to Washington that it was willing to abandon its notorious 1988 charter and to integrate itself into negotiations aimed at a two-state settlement. The crucial point is this: in the 15 years since, neither Washington or Tel Aviv has ever once so much as indicated that it would be willing to test that Hamas offer. To the contrary, they immediately moved to punish the Hamas leadership and the people of Gaza through that vile and illegal blockade. When Hamas threatened to break with its assigned role as a rejectionist terrorist group and sought to integrate itself into negotiations, Israel furthermore fell back upon its age-old method, massive resort to military violence. And as Norman has documented in insane detail, it carried out military operations in 2006, in 2008, in 2012, and 2014, in virtually every case, aimed, at least in part, at derailing Palestinian peace initiatives. And so, when the question is raised how can Israel coexist with Hamas when it refuses to engage in diplomatic activity or refuses to recognize Israel? The simple answer is that Hamas tried. It tried that for 15 years. And every avenue it sought to go down, it was blocked by American and Israeli power. And as I write in the chapter, the bottom line is this, that were it not for the fact that Israel not only missed, but actively spurned and sabotaged every Palestinian peace offer. Those crimes committed on October 7th and the much greater crime that is ongoing, that Israeli genocide in Gaza, would never have happened. They would never have happened because the Israel-Palestine conflict would have long been resolved.
Damn. Damn. That was impressive. Damn! That's Coulter lore worse, okay? Lower worse. So the same offer was again made last year and was once again dismissed by everyone, including genocidal Zionists like Ezra Klein. What a surprise. Again,
Of course.
Hamas willing to lay down its arms. This is the Associated Press almost a year ago, last April. Top Hamas political official told the AP they are willing to agree to a truce of 5 years or more that would lay down its weapons and convert it into a political party if an independent Palestinian state is established along pre-67 borders, which Israel will never allow. The Ezra Kleins of the world will ignore all this and instead hysterically shout, "How dare they resist my Zionist genocide and occupation? How dare they respond to decades of Zionists like me, mass raping, maiming, and killing their babies, children, women, and men by retaliating in kind?" And to such a marginal, right, to such marginal extent that when you compare casualty figures to our mass killing sprees, their response is barely visible. No, that's not how it works. We kill, we rape, we maim. We throw your babies into ovens and then fabricate hoaxes to launder our crimes, making it part of our wedding rituals to take photos of these babies and stab them with knives. Oh, God. I don't know. I'm going to regret this. The baby who was burned alive is now part of depraved Israeli marriage rituals where they take photos of him and stab it as a symbol for all Palestinian babies they want to burn and kill. Oh my God. Nope. Wow. Brah. Yeah, brah is right. All right. That threat only gets worse, by the way. That's what we, Ezra Kleins, Matthew Iglesias, and Noah Smiths do to you. And you dare respond? You dare think you are human and allowed to even consider resisting as we occupy, genocide, and rape you to death? Now, Ezra Klein is not doing that. However, Ezra Klein is full-throated supporting the people who are, which is just as bad, if not worse, because he doesn't have the balls to do it himself. He's relying on them to do it and then turning around and trying to justify their animalistic behavior. No, that's not how the Zionist Nazi universe works. They are human, you are subhuman. At one point, Ezra Klein claims that Hamas is worse than Netanyahu. You can only say this if you are a Zionist ethnic supremacist who believes Palestinians, Lebanese, and Yemenis are subhuman. Hundreds of thousands maimed, burned alive, tortured, and raped to death. They're all nothing to Ezra Klein compared to the Palestinian resistance daring to resist occupation, genocide, and apartheid, which they're legally allowed to do. Remember, we got the shirt. When people are occupied, resistance is justified. We got a t-shirt and a sticker. Go get it. IndieNews.shop. At another point, Ezra Klein, at another point, Ezra asserts that Hamas knew what Operation Al-Aqsa Flood would cause, namely the mass murder and rape of their people, because everyone supposedly knows how genocidal and depraved the Ezra Kleins of the world are, or at least the Ben-Gvirs, the Gallants, and the Netanyahus. And by proxy, Ezra Klein. See, he uses them as a proxy. He denounces them. They're the bad ones. But they're not really the bad ones because he's completely fine with what they're doing. Or at least they should know, solely when it benefits the Hasbro propaganda line that launders genocide by blaming it on Hamas and their so-called agency, a variation of the classic and depraved human shields trope. But by that logic, Ezra Klein and Zionists should have known that their occupation, occupied and genocide of Palestinians for a century, would lead to Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. Ergo, they are morally absolved completely.
Ergo Proctor Hawk?
Basically, post-Propter Hoc. Especially since every Israeli is actually, by definition, a human shield. But again, Ezra Klein can't even comprehend applying this as a universal standard because he is a Zionist. And as Squirrel says, he's a Zionist Nazi. He believes he and his people, and by his people, he solely means Zionist Jews. He doesn't. He also means Zionist Christians, are superior to all other forms of life on this planet, and that they maim, rape, and kill are subhuman. I don't think he really truly believes that. Squirrel is accusing him of that. These are the genocidal Zionist liberal scum who run the liberal New York Times, CNN, AP, Reuters, Guardian, and Washington Post. Finally, another genocide laundering lie Ezra Klein constantly repeats is that interview is this myth of a good, virtuous, liberal left Israel with sincere peace seekers who were thwarted by the evil of Hamas and Palestinian resistance in the 90s, forcing them to become genocidal. Hamas didn't even exist until 2006, but that's a whole other thing. This is yet another brazen, shameless lie the genocidal Zionists like Ezra Klein have fabricated and spread to launder their own sadistic, pathological bloodlust and project it onto those they occupy, rape, and murder. Sick. Israel has been a death cult that has resolutely opposed any peace deal in favor of continuing its occupation, apartheid, and genocide, as detailed by Norman Finkelstein and Mika's dad, Mr. Berzinski, of all people. All right? Oh, with Mika and Morning Joe, which I'm not going to play because fuck them, but I will play the Finkelstein piece because I think this is important, even though fuck democracy now.
Israel was the only country in the world, the only one, which had legalized torture from 1987 to 1999. The record on torture, on house demolitions, and targeted.
1999 is when we came to office.
I wish that were. I wish that were the saving grace. But the fact of the matter is, being faithful to the historical record, the record of labor has been much worse on human rights violations than the record of Likud. It's a fact that the only Israeli government during the period from 1967 to the present which temporarily suspended torture was Begin from 1979 to 1981. On the record of house demolitions, Mr. Rabin used to boast that he demolished many more homes than any Likud government. Even on the record of settlements, as Dr. Ben-Ami well knows, the record of Rabin was worse in terms of settlement expansion than the record of Yitzhak Shamir. And a fact he leaves out in the book, the record of Barak on housing startups in the occupied territories.
Building more houses.
Yeah, was worse than the record of Netanyahu. It's a paradox for, I'm sure, American listeners, but the record on human rights, an abysmal record in general, and in particular, the worst record is the record of labor, not Likud.
Which is also really interesting. And Norman's a legend. Again, we talked about Norman when he had the Beitar terrorist pager attack happen to him a few weeks ago. Don't always agree with him, but he has been really good basically since October 8th, 2023. He's been a leader. He's been an outspoken voice. And, you know, he had a lot of questionable takes on COVID and other stuff, but he's been 100% spot on here. I didn't like when he said that Rafah, and I remember a while back he said Gaza is completely gone. I disagree with that, at least now. I sure as hell hope that isn't going to be the case. And we're still fighting to make that not a reality. We're definitely losing it, and we'll go into a little bit more detail on that in a minute. But, you know, shitting on Ezra Klein is certainly not going to help YouTube. Maybe they'll like that because it's some kind of conflict. I don't know. Thank you to everyone who's here. But if you're able to, because we are demonetized on INN, we ask you to not give money to the platforms anyway. We'd rather not have to pay the fees. So Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network are the best ways to support the channel. And you can also subscribe monthly or annually or even free at INNnewsletter.com, where 6 to 7 days a week, you'll get a daily update of all of the live streams, the clips that are published, the articles, any simulcasts, and then a weekly update on Friday night. There are podcasts. I've now started making Boats Smashing into Other Boats, a podcast that will be published on Thursdays. Our one-on-ones are being published over there. So there's a lot to subscribe to over at INNnewsletter.com. Please do that. Again,
coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
I'd rather you did that actually for free, and then support us over at Ko-fi and PayPal and Cash App. Those are the best ways to do that. That's been the formula, and it works great for us and for you. And thank you so much to all who do it. Support independent media, kids. We need it more than ever. Love you all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
You can keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.
Who are these people?
Jason Hickel, he's a professor, college professor, wrote an article that I thought was also really interesting, reminding people that no, Israel is not a democracy. The only democracy in the Middle East is not a democracy. More than 11 million people are denied the right to vote for the government that controls their territory. So how can you call that a democracy exactly? Okay. He starts off by saying that U.S. politicians like to say that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, but it's not. Not by a long shot. In fact, it functions as one of the most undemocratic countries in the world. Israel exercises total control over the West Bank and Gaza. These territories have no actual sovereignty. The West Bank, with 3 million people, is subjected to military occupation, which is illegal under international law, let's not forget. And as for Gaza, which had 2.1 million people, now we think it's down to as many as 1.5 maybe, is also under military occupation, according to international law, as Israel maintains direct control over its airspace, its coast, and its land borders, controlling everything that goes in and out. How is that not an occupation? they'll deny that they occupy them. The 5.1 million people living in these territories do not have the right to vote over the government that determines virtually everything about their lives. And their basic human rights under international law are unenforced and regularly violated with impunity. On top of this, there are another 6 million Palestinians who've been forcibly removed from Palestine and who exist as stateless refugees with no rights within their homeland whatsoever. So what's going on here? Well, apartheid. Many people get hung up on the apartheid analogy because when they think of apartheid in South Africa, they think of segregation and unequal rights among citizens, and they say this sort of thing doesn't happen in Israel. It does. But this is known as petty apartheid, and it was only a minor part of the apartheid system in South Africa. The real action, grand apartheid, had much bigger designs, and this is where the analogy is strongest. Grand apartheid was the process of reshaping territorial boundaries and citizenship. The idea was to forcibly remove the African population from the majority of the country's territory, literally bulldozing their houses and loading them into trucks, does it sound familiar, and dump them onto tiny fragmented chunks of land called Bantustans. Now, then you put a border around each Bantustan, give people citizenship there, give it a flag and a coat of arms, and set up a parliament. Taking this approach, ethnic cleansing, the apartheid regime shoved most of the African population into enclaves comprising just 13% of the land and denied them any rights of citizenship within the white territory. Now you could consider to replace white with Jewish. White people justified this by saying Africans had rights in their own countries, the Bantustans. But of course, the Bantustans were fake. They had no real power, no economic sovereignty, no independent militaries, etc. The apartheid regime controlled their borders and trade. Israel was established in 1948, the very same year the apartheid regime was established in South Africa, and has followed the grand apartheid playbook chapter and verse. The Nakba began the process of shoving Palestinians off their land, out of their homes, and either into the enclaves that today form Gaza and the West Bank. Those are the stands where 5.1 million people live within borders Israel controls, or into neighboring countries like Jordan and Egypt and Lebanon and Syria, where 6 million Palestinians live as stateless refugees. The process of ethnic cleansing continues today. And of course, what's the result? More than 11 million people, again, that's just Palestinians, are hived off from the realm of rights within their own territory and deny the right to vote for the government that controls it. Minority rule by Zionists is declared by democratic. They declare it democratic only because it excludes the majority of the population. Calling this democracy is an extraordinary farce. There's no democracy within apartheid. Apartheid must be abolished. The 11 million must be free to return to their land and homes. Their homes don't exist anymore, but at least their land, and must enjoy full rights of citizenship within a fully democratic polity, including the right to vote for the people who govern them. That's a democracy. It also bears noting that while the U.S. liberal discourse implies that they want to see democracy in the Middle East, nothing could be further from the truth. For the past 60 years, the U.S. has propped up authoritarian regimes in the region in order to maintain its interests, has sought to crush liberation movements for struggling for democracy. As Samir Amin pointed out, the U.S. and Israel actively reject genuine democracies in the region because democratic Arab countries would quickly tip the balance of power in favor of the Palestinian cause. Hey, how about that? That's amazing. The claim that Israel is an apartheid state is not a fringe opinion. Every major human rights organization has taken this position, from Amnesty International to Human Rights Watch, which both also have their own issues. And in 2024, the ICJ issued an opinion stating that Israel is in violation of Article 3 of CERD, which condemns and prohibits racial segregation and apartheid. Israel is an apartheid regime. Apartheid is recognized as a crime against humanity in the Rome Statute of the ICC, and it must be abolished. But Israel runs the world, so apparently that's not going to happen right now, maybe, but I don't know why we shouldn't be fighting for it. And I think some of us and a lot of us are marching in the streets of New York City and saying, don't cancel NATO is not necessarily the way to do it. Right?
Hands off NATO! Hands off!
Well, wait, hands off Medicare.
Hands off NATO!
Yes. Hands off all the things we will never fight for. That's what the Democrats are saying.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
This one.
Taking ketamine? Because I think it could really help you.
Thank you, Shelly. Shelly.
What?
Left Voice is another Indie Media Award honoree. And Otto Force is one of my more favorite writers over there. He and Wolfgang Mendelbaum wrote an article that quotes Netanyahu.
Wolfgang Mendelbaum.
That quotes Netanyahu.
Names are funny.
And this is why I brought this. It was really just for the headline. We'll read the article, but it was really just for the headline that Netanyahu said that Gaza will be Israeli or it will not cease. It will not exist. He continues his plan to annex Gaza. Again, with
how about new?
Yeah, except that this is why Miriam.
Crazy Dutch bastard.
No, he's an Israeli bastard with Polish background, but
close enough.
This is
close enough to Dutch.
This is what Miriam Adelson paid for to get Donald Trump as president, and the deal that Donald Trump made was to allow them to completely annex Gaza and the West Bank. So Netanyahu is making plans to annex Gaza, supported by a new circle of ministers, monsters, and advisors, even more extreme than the previous ones, determined to wage war until Hamas and the enclave itself are completely eliminated. Except that we've seen the military assessments that say that you will never get rid of Hamas. Never. Because what will happen is the rest of the world you can't eliminate Hamas everywhere else around the world. You can't bomb every hotel that somebody that might be Palestinian and supporting that cause. Or maybe they will, but I don't think they can.
No.
You could outlaw religion and most of these sex crimes would disappear in a couple of generations. But we don't have time for rational solutions.
Church of Carlin, it's Sunday. It's Sunday, folks. We gotta go to church. So Otto
speaking
and
of sex
Volka,
crimes in Israel, who showed up there?
Right?
Who showed up recently?
Rusty Rockets, baby. He's got those Rusty Rockets. He's
Andrew Tate, soon to follow.
Rape charges and Israeli trips go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Go together. You got sex crimes in my Israel. You got Israel in my sex crime.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, fucking what a disgusting world we live in.
1 week after the resumption of the genocide in Gaza, the death toll is catastrophic. Nearly 800 dead, including a large number of children. I saw another headless one them running down the street today, blurred out.
Yeah, I know, dude. Fucking just awful.
And they'll deny all this. Access to humanitarian aid has been completely cut off for more than 3 weeks. The IOF are bombing hospitals and homes and civilian infrastructure. On Monday, Israel announced that it had attacked more than 100 pickup trucks under the pretext that they could be used by the Al-Qassam brigades. With the resumption of negotiations stalled and the imperialist powers continuing to openly support Israel's massacres in the enclave, the future looks bleaker than ever for Gazans. The new Army Chief of Staff, Eyal Zamir, remember that name? He's the new
Beelzebub?
He's the new Gallant. He said that he wants to complete what Israel has been trying to do since October 2023, eliminate any Hamas presence in Gaza. This means an escalation of indiscriminate bombing and the systemic destruction of civilian infrastructure, whatever is left. But above all, this goal is now compounded by the threat of an unprecedented military deployment. An unprecedented military deployment because there's so much there for them to worry about. According to the Wall Street Journal, plans for a massive ground invasion have been drawn up and could be implemented very quickly. The army has already regained control of the Netzarim corridor and is conducting incursions into Gaza City and the northern Gaza Strip in an effort to expand its buffer zone. That's a nice way to say its murder zone. It's also present in Rafah, Khan Yunis, as well as the Tel Asutran refugee camp, which is surrounded by the IOF after a massive bombardment that left more than 50 dead. And this week we saw bombings in Rafah and Khan Yunis. The goal is to smother Hamas, quote unquote, by occupying large swaths of territory and maintaining a significant military presence there, leaving it nowhere to retreat, choking it off everywhere they can. In earlier phases of the quote unquote war, you mean the massacre, the army typically withdrew after capturing an area, giving Hamas the ability to reestablish itself. This time, the goal is to gradually reduce any room for maneuver, eliminating each pocket of resistance piecemeal. This would be accompanied by a gradual and systemic destruction of Hamas's entire tunnel network. Secret tunnels that a lot of which Israel built.
Shit.
By the way, I noticed they didn't mention that.
Secret tunnel.
This exclusively military strategy risks being rejected by the Israeli opposition and a large segment of public opinion, which would initially prefer a political solution, that is, the resumption of negotiations to secure the release of the remaining hostages and a ceasefire, even if it means resuming the war to settle the Palestinian problem. Wow, that sounds a lot like what they used to call the...
That just sounds like a final solution.
A J problem, right?
The Palestinian problem that requires a fucking...
Modern problems require modern solutions.
But the new war council,
final ones, apparently,
centered around Israel Katz, that's another one of the names you need to know. I believe he replaced Ben Gvir, and A.L. Zamir is taking a much more radical line than the previous one, which already was extremist.
Pretty fucking radical, right?
According to them, the quote-unquote defeat of Hezbollah, the fall of the Assad regime, and the fact that the Houthis are facing incessant U.S. bombing now gives them... Thanks, U.S. Now gives them free hand to achieve what they want, what they have so far failed to accomplish: the total elimination of Hamas, which, of course, the U.S. intelligence community has said they'll never be able to do. Along the same lines, the IDF has intensified its strategy of targeting senior Hamas political staff. Now, it's funny how they haven't even mentioned a civilian death in all this. This is just about their intention.
Just say
about
seniors,
right? Right.
You know,
since the resumption of the genocide,
citizens, that's who they plan on targeting.
Several central figures in the Gaza government have already been eliminated, including the enclave's prime minister, Hussam al-Dalish, as well as his presumed successor, Ismail Barhoum, also killed with a justice minister, the interior minister, the finance minister, and the head of Hamas's security agency, Sinwar.
Yeah, we killed him, but trust us, this guy was horrid.
Right. So, but they should negotiate. They've killed all the people they negotiate with. Anyone who comes to negotiate ends up dead.
And pray I don't alter the deal further.
Right. But beyond the cabinet rhetoric, the plan, as Haaretz reported Friday, aims for the total occupation of Gaza, accompanied by the establishment of an Israeli military administration modeled on the one in force between 67 and 94. One of its central missions would be to organize the expulsion of the entire Gazan population in accordance with the ethnic cleansing plan promoted by Donald Trump. Yes, promoted by Donald Trump. Initially, Gaza's 2 million inhabitants would be confined to a small humanitarian quote unquote zone, which of course they continuously bomb.
Yes.
Where food aid would never exceed the minimum calories necessary for their survival. That's called a starvation plus diet, and Israel's had Palestinians on that for the past 2 decades already. The aim? Israel's full annexation of Gaza. As L'Orient du Jour summarizes,
Nazis. I hate these guys.
Before Israel Cats, no Israeli official had gone so far with regard to Gaza. There were threats to destroy it, depopulate it, occupy it, which was done, but never to annex it. The taboo has fallen. Gaza will be Israeli or it will not exist. However, before he can carry out his project, Netanyahu will have to deal with a series of contradictions. Israel's mired in an unprecedented internal crisis, compounded by a major political crisis. 73% of Israelis want the prime minister to resign, a figure that has increased since his attempt to remove the Shin Bet chief. Meanwhile, a mutiny of reservists is underway. Exhausted by the war, many now refuse to continue living the horrors of Gaza. 18 months of genocide, just too much for them. The project of totally eradicating Gaza is possible thanks to the unconditional support Netanyahu enjoys, first from the Biden and then the Trump administrations, but also from the European powers, which support and shamelessly participate in the genocide, especially the spy flights that Keir Starmer has been promoting and providing, likely free of charge.
Yep, accurate.
The cynical refrain, repeated ad nauseum, of, quote, Israel's right to defend itself, unquote, finds its logical conclusion here, the realization of genocide and annexation. And this was originally published at the end of March in La Izquierda Diario, which is the Argentinian version, the Left Diary. That's what La Izquierda Diario stands for. Left Voice, again.
You better say Free Palestine.
That's right. Indie Media Award honoree, Free Palestine, you bet. I will say it. This speaks for itself. Targets.
Ugh. Yep.
Had to bring that. I saw it and I'm like, oh. Red Crescent, press, babies, mothers, grandmothers.
Mothers. Yeah.
Targets.
Free Palestine.
And we get to Rafah, which is now completely laid to waste. Rafah in southern Gaza before and after U.S.-made bombs paid by American taxpayers and non-taxpayers, paid by American citizens and were dropped by Zionist terrorists on Palestinian natives. You are all complicit in this genocide. We all are.
Are we the baddies?
Yep.
That's the same main road.
I remember when Rafah was a red line. I remember that.
That's the same main road.
Yep. It's fucking crazy.
Fuck Joe Biden. Fuck Blinken. Fuck Sullivan. Fuck all these people that did this. Kamala Harris. And of course, Netanyahu and all the Israeli genocidal fucking maniacs. That still, this isn't even enough for them. They want more. They're going to escalate the attack even more because this isn't enough. These fucking lunatics, monsters.
Yep.
You know, we talked about the Red Crescent workers and the horrifying story that happened to them. 15 of them murdered by Israel after going and trying to recover, and then Israel shooting at the people trying to recover their bodies, that they had buried the rescue trucks. And now we have cell phone footage from one of the aid workers as they're being fired upon. 45
Lights
seconds.
on the entire time.
This is horrific. I'm sorry to do
Clearly
this.
marked. ambulance insignia.
They're lying around scattered. They're everywhere.
There's no God but God.
Gunshots are heard for a full 5 minutes on the video.
Correct.
Saeed Mohammed Morandi.
But they said they were acting suspiciously, these ambulances. Then they rescinded that, said they made a mistake. Oopsies.
Just another Israeli lie that they won't be held accountable for. Just another Monday.
No.
And then we have Abu Bakr.
You can't handle the truth.
Israel has bombed the gate of Al-Aqsa Hospital. I don't even know what that looks like at this point because they've already bombed it how many times?
Yeah. It's tense.
Killing 2 people and wounding others. The 2 are my cousin and his child.
Alhamdulillah.
These motherfuckers.
Well,
This is a 21-year-old kid. This is a 22-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Having to
And
deal
then
with...
they bombed the journalist tent.
Yep.
I had to watch a man burned alive today. Again.
Now, I also wanted to mention Abu Bakr, posted the other day about food prices. If they're even available per kilogram, $7 for tomatoes. We're not even paying $7. Yep. $8 eggplant. $90 a kilogram for meat or fish.
$30 a liter for oil is what the Intifada article had this week.
$11 a kilogram for rice. I mean, that's a basic staple. Right. And they're running out of it, by the way, if you can find it.
$1.43 at Walmart.
And you need to pay in cash to afford this, which means the prices are doubled.
Yeah. Doubled. Yep. So,
and they continue to not let the aid trucks in, and then gaslight and say that they are letting aid trucks in, and that they don't know what you're talking about because aid trucks are flowing in. What do you mean?
They've not had water drinkable forever. It's been like 97% undrinkable water for like
weeks,
a decade now.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Well, yes.
So, yeah, I know.
Again, it's been 100 days since the abduction of Dr. Hussam Abu Safiya. All right. And this was on April 6th. So that was today. Let this man go. But I meant to bring this last week. It was actually came out last Saturday. Reef, you shared this. Dr. Hussam's lawyer, he was denied legal representation for over 45 days, brutally beaten during interrogations, suffering broken ribs and severe injuries, and held in solitary for weeks. Israeli authorities allegedly tortured him to extract confessions and fabricate a security case, and now he is going to be held for another 6 months.
He's done access for more than 45 days. After these 45 days ended, the prison administration started making, I missed that. I'll go back a bit and catch up. Started making excuses. Of course they did.
They said the earliest
available appointment.
Beginning of March.
They also delayed the visit for some time.
Second visit
was
March 19th.
On the 19th. Yep.
That lasted 17 minutes. It was clear there was a decision or obstinacy from the prison authorities that they did not want us to sit with him for a longer period. However, during these 17 minutes, we still managed to discuss all the violations, his entire interrogation period, and all the torture he was subjected to. Unfortunately, what I understood from him is that when he was held at State Haman military camp, where he stayed for about 14 days, he underwent between 4 to 5 interrogations. During these interrogations, he was severely beaten by a group of soldiers who unfortunately assaulted him even while being transferred Even on his way to interrogation, he was beaten. On his way to clinic, he was beaten. Unfortunately, they broke about 3 or 4 of his ribs in the chest area.
Jesus Christ.
He was punched hard in the eye, causing an injury. He was also placed in solitary for a period until he was transferred to Ophir prison. In Ophir prison, he stayed for 25 days in solitary in a cell measuring
Solitary.
solitary, right, in 1.5 meters by 1 meter. Wow, that's like a 3 by 4.5. That's like a literal, like you could barely move.
It's a fucking box, right?
There, too, he was subjected to severe beatings and psychological pressure to the extent that his body became physically exhausted. He was physically drained to the point where the prison administration forced to bring in doctors to treat him. He underwent several interrogations inside military camps and prisons. These interrogations were conducted by the Army or intelligence services. They were extremely harsh on him during the interrogations. He was subjected to severe mistreatment. One of the main reasons for this mistreatment was that he openly challenged the system. He refused to evacuate Kamal Adwan Hospital. They wanted to make an example of him. They aimed to intimidate the rest of the detainees throughout and to send a message that anyone who dares challenge them or even thinks of defying them and refusing to obey their orders and those in the army, that is the fate that awaits them. They tried to turn his case into an ordinary security file to charge him with an indictment, and they were hoping to extract confessions from him, which is also very important to him, is the issue of medical staff, medical teams, the doctors, the wounded. He's always been and remains, this has always been the people and the patients, one of his top priorities.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's not alone. He's not the only doctor detained in prisons. We have hundreds of medical professionals,
nurses, surgeons,
detained inside Israeli prisons and Israeli military camps. He's only one. They were taken from inside Gaza, from hospitals.
Yep.
Now we're going to get into just by the numbers, because I really like Steve Semler. And I believe this is a free article where he breaks down Israel's war on aid workers. All right. This was from the other day. Polygraph.substack, StephenSemler.com, Semler. He's, again, good analytics numbers guy, just looks at the raw numbers. All right. And what he said was that by the numbers, let's look at the war on workers, on aid workers. If this incident generates enough public backlash, Israel will claim without credible evidence that the aid workers were our militants. What a surprise. For now, its excuse is that the ambulances were advancing suspiciously toward IDF troops. And that the Guardian, per the Guardian, the movement of the ambulances had not been coordinated with the IDF in advance. Right. Okay. But the Israeli military stopped acknowledging notifications through the humanitarian notification system, the process by which aid workers alert warring parties of their intended movements so they don't get shot at during the ceasefire.
Yeah, who owns that? Peter Thiel?
Right. Israel's intent with this move was clear: deny Palestinians life-saving aid by making the risk of carrying out humanitarian operations too high, and it worked. Save the Children, for example, scaled back its operations in Gaza by 80% after Israel withdrew from the system. The Israeli military's systematic killing of aid workers serves the same objective. Per a former colleague of mine in the humanitarian sector, quote, the targeting of healthcare workers is deliberate. Israel wants to diminish the aid response capacity so organizations of their own accord stop working. See also making conditions so intolerable that Palestinians self-deport. This might sound familiar. There is also plenty of forensic evidence to support these comments, and the numbers on humanitarian worker deaths speak for themselves. He says, since October 23, I estimate that Israel has killed about twice as many aid workers, 426, as the rest of the world combined, according to my analysis of data from the Aid Worker Security Database, cross-referenced with media and other reports. During that stretch, Israel killed humanitarian workers in Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, and Yemen, and injured at least 3 aid workers in Syria, in addition to the 164 it wounded elsewhere from October 23 to April of this year. Share the following chart on social media and you'll likely get a comment along the lines of aid workers are terrorists, parroting an apartheid state's genocidal logic. And remember, we just read about what an apartheid state Israel is. One that turns international law and morality on its head is certainly a choice. One that the commentator had plenty of time to think about as they painstakingly mashed their sweaty, clunky, inbred fingers onto the keyboard to churn out that vile remark. Would have been easier for them to just keep quiet. And here are the numbers. 640 aid workers, 426 from Israel alone. 217 by the rest of the world, which is still gross.
Yeah.
Okay. The methodology is that, and you can read about it there. I'm not going to get into reading it, but bottom line is Israel has killed 426 aid workers in addition to the 208 journalists, in addition to blah, 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 in addition to the scholars, the teachers, the dentists, the everything else that they've murdered in addition. But specifically, aid workers. Literally, systematically attacking the healthcare system. Thus, concludes our Fuck Israel segment for the evening, thankfully. Sort of. I mean, of course, everything has the looming overshadow of Israel funding all of it. And we'll get to Zionist Bitcoin.
You motherfuckers.
We'll get to Zionist Bitcoin, Golden Monarch in a little while. Because I know Golden Monarch going, fucking Zionist Bitcoin. That's his thing. Well, before saying fuck Israel.
Acquisition is greed is eternal.
Yes, we know. The Ferengis. The Israelis, these Ferengis, which is which. Anyway, Dana Saeed, we know her, we love her, she's fantastic. Support and follow her. This is also interesting. The Israeli military is one of Microsoft AI's biggest clients, with that relationship deepening during some of the worst Israeli bombardment of Gaza during this genocide. This is a Muslim Microsoft employee calling out the CEO of Microsoft AI, who is a British Syrian, not Muslim. Mustafa Soliman, may your name never be forgotten, and may the blood on your hands of Palestinians forever stain your skin. So Microsoft employee disrupts 50th anniversary and calls AI boss a war profiteer.
50,000 people have died, and Microsoft powers this genocide in our region.
Thank you for your protest, I hear you.
Your Syrian family know about this, Mustafa.
I hear your protest, thank you.
Yeah, slap those papers.
You are a war profiteer.
I hear you.
Stop using AI for genocide, Mustafa. Stop using AI for genocide in our region. You have blood on your hands. All of Microsoft has blood on its hands. How do you all celebrate when Microsoft is killing children? Shame on you all.
Thank you. I hear your protest, thank you. Okay.
I hear you.
I hear your protest, and I'm going to do absolutely nothing about it.
I
Thank
hear
you.
you.
Thank you. Fuck you.
Shame.
That belonged there.
Shame.
Shame. Shame.
Shame.
Yeah, nice job, lady. Absolutely. Yes, Cookies. I agree. She did a hell of a job. I wanted to bring that. That there are brave people working in these organizations standing up. Now, she's worked there for how long? And I don't know how silent she's been, but he walked into that meeting. She was invited to that meeting. They didn't think that she would be a problem to invite her to that meeting. She chose that moment to stand up, which I appreciate.
I hear you.
But at the same time,
I see you.
How long was there silence before that? Again, she's Muslim, and I can't really. I'm not trying to pass judgment. I'm not, but your protest doesn't increase my portfolio. That fuck that fuckwad. That's right. Yep.
We're sorry. We're sorry.
We're so sorry.
That's all you're gonna get. That's what you're gonna get.
Sorry.
That is is that the coffee? Is that when the coffee company moves into South Park? That's one of my favorite episodes.
No, that's the BP episode.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, we're sorry for ruining your environment, right?
We're sorry.
So
we're sorry.
For saying shit like that, we get demonetized. That's why we ask you to please support the media you want to see and fund the media you want to see.
Do it.
With a cash app at $, Indie News Network if you're so inclined and you have the means and you find some bucks between the couch or you digitally find a couple dollars, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. That does help. INNnewsletter.com is the way to stay in touch with the network on a daily basis. Support independent media, kids. We need it more than ever. Love you all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
Can keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.
Who are these people?
Here is the Fuck Israel segment for this week. Bring this over a little bit more.
Bye, Israel!
I wish, but not yet. So this is a friend of ours. I think you might know him on Twitter as 503i7. Good. He's been a friend of the network for a long time, and he wrote this interesting article. He just recently started publishing on Substack, writing a bunch of articles, sometimes even 2 and 3 a day. I mean, he's just like, it's poured out of him. And it's not AI written. He's actually writing these things. So I found this one interesting because this is called A Wolf Who Cried Bomb. And I think you and Colin have talked a little bit about Netanyahu and his history and his, fear-mongering at different times in order to warn about an Iranian bomb. Well, what our friend here did was went back and documented each time that started to happen and what he had said and the rhetoric that led up to it and everything. So I thought I would bring that to start. I have a few different things, but this is, look, they're trying to orchestrate a war between the United States and Iran right now. So I thought that it was really relevant to bring this story because you've got Netanyahu really pushing the admin. You've got the administration dumping officials that are fighting the potential fight with Iran, that are saying we don't need to do this, and that this is done on behalf of Israel, and there is no strategic value to the United States to attack or to get into a war with Iran that does not want war with us, by the way. So our friend starts saying that Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly claimed over the years that Iran was on the verge of acquiring a nuclear bomb, often using these assertions to push for the U.S. to make war against Iran. So below is a detailed overview of the instances where he's made such statements. And this is very funny. A wolf who cried bomb by AIPAC. Okay. He's the shepherd with MAGA over there.
MAGA sheep.
The Democratic Party should be in there too.
Talking about it for sure.
Okay.
You know.
So
well, they're gonna bomb the U.S. Okay, let's look at who actually has fucking Samson options. Let's look at that
and nuclear weapons. Which, by the way, Alan Dershowitz either yesterday or today was interviewed and basically said, well, if there was ever a one-state solution, who would control the nuclear weapons? Thereby admitting that he knows that Israel already has nuclear weapons. Thanks. You just gave up your game. Schmuck. All right. Yeah. So what he says is that he'll critically examine the veracity of these claims, noting discrepancies and the broader context vis-a-vis the specter of a nuclear Iran. Okay. So the name of this publication, by the way, is Life and Polity. Life and Polity. So subscribe there, 50317.substack.com. All right. So 1992, as a Knesset member, Netanyahu was already starting early warnings. Okay. While a member of the Israeli Knesset claimed that Iran was 3 to 5 years away from achieving nuclear weapons capability. And he's got receipts, links to a Times of Israel article right there. All right. This early assertion set the tone for his long-standing focus on Iran as an existential threat to Israel. At the time, Iran's nuclear program was in its nation stages, and there was little public evidence to support such a precise timeline. Well, but we all know that Israel's spying on Iran the whole time. This claim appears to have been more speculative, likely intended to raise alarm and garner international attention, especially given the lack of detailed intelligence shared publicly at that stage. That doesn't mean that they didn't claim to have it. They just didn't share it. 3 years later, he's continuing his alarm. In 95, he reiterated his concerns, again stating that Iran was 3 to 5 years from nuclear weapons capability. Again, are we detecting a theme here? 3 to 5 years is the way that he seems to fearmonger so that he never actually has to deliver on when they actually possess nuclear weapons. Again, this repetition suggested that he was trying to establish a consistent narrative, but the timeline remaining unchanged over 3 years raises questions about the accuracy of his initial intelligence, right? So he said 3 to 5 years in 92. Now it's 95 and he's saying 3 to 5 years still. Like, what happened? Were you just full of shit last time? I guess so. During this period, Iran was still under international scrutiny, but no concrete evidence emerged to confirm that it was close to a bomb. Of course not. The static timeline could indicate either a lack of updated intelligence or a deliberate deception aimed at increasing tensions between the U.S. and Iran. Iran, of course, did not develop a nuclear bomb within 3 to 5 years, and that's what the narrator said. All right. He then gets invited to address Congress in 1996, and once again, he cries that Iran's acquisition of nuclear weapons could have catastrophic consequences for Israel, the Middle East, and the world, claiming that the deadline for attaining this goal is extremely close. No time frame. Again, while he didn't specify a timeline here, right? The language of immediacy mirror his earlier claims. So again, then you get to 2002. Now you're already post 9/11. No comments there.
Mm-hmm.
In 2002, he briefly shifted focus back to Iraq and then to Iran because he realized that he could capitalize on sending the U.S. into the Middle East and getting them entwined in a war with Iraq, which would eventually entangle them into a war with Iran. Again, talking about Iraq advancing toward the development of nuclear weapons with centrifuges the size of washing machines. Later proven false. No such program existed in Iraq. However, shortly after, he then returned to Iran, stating it was a major threat, though without a, once again, specific timeline in this instance. It's been his goal for 35 years to bring Iran to its knees and to have the U.S. invade Iran and do his dirty work. All right. The lies about Iraq damaged his credibility on such claims, yet he quickly pivoted back to Iran, right? Suggesting that nuclear threats to push for military or even diplomatic action. He didn't really want diplomatic. Now he comes back into office. 7 years later, he's raising the alarm again for, now you have a new president. You got Obama coming in. So now he wants to try to control the narrative and control Obama and get Obama under heel. So what does he do? He threatens an Iranian bomb again. Right? As Prime Minister, Netanyahu told a congressional delegation that Iran was, again, here we go, probably 1 or 2 years away from developing nuclear weapons capability, according to State Department cables released by our friends over at WikiLeaks. In another meeting that year, he claimed that Iran had the capability to now make one bomb or could wait and make several bombs in a year or two. Again, completely pulling that out of his asshole. Right. These statements are notable for their specificity, but they contrast with later intelligence assessments, meaning that, again, he completely lied and just made up more detail. Right. For instance, by 2011, departing Mossad chief Meir Dagan stated that an Iranian nuclear weapon was not imminent, directly contradicting Netanyahu's claims. And let me guess, he was gone not long afterwards. This discrepancy suggests either a divergence in intelligence or a deliberate exaggeration to pressure the U.S. and allies. Again, do we see a theme here? Next year, we got 2012, the Red Line. We have the Red Line speech at the UN in 2012. Highly publicized address to the UN General Assembly at the end of September. Netanyahu famously used the cartoon bomb diagram to illustrate Iran's nuclear progress, right? Claiming that they were less than a year from developing a nuclear weapon. Again, this is 2012. He started this shit in 1992. He's already, right, 20 years in, and they haven't developed a bomb. He specified that Iran would complete the second stage of uranium enrichment, meaning 20% purity, by next spring or by at most next summer, right? But then,
Sorry,
of
you
course,
mean next Arab spring,
right? But then, of course, the UN page is no longer available. What a shock! For his address.
404'd it. They 404'd it.
Right? For his own statement. They had to have just reshuffled it, would be my guess. But they 404'd the original link. He also told Meet the Press that September that Iran was 6 or 7 months away, 90% of the way there by 2013. Then, of course, you had the agreement that was signed that ensured that they weren't going to develop a bomb for at least 10 years. And then Trump tore that up. So now that gave Netanyahu the ability to start fear-mongering again, claims of secret sites. All right. That was, again, only once Trump tore up the agreement, the JCPOA. There we go. Thank you for bringing it up. In 2018, Netanyahu made several statements alleging Iran's ongoing nuclear ambitions. Again, they didn't have any, or at least publicly and by all stretch of evidence. On April 30th, 2018, he presented what he claimed were stolen Iranian files, asserting that they had lied about its nuclear weapons program and was preserving the knowledge to restart it. Which, again, they could preserve knowledge. That's not illegal. But they hadn't lied about their nuclear weapons program because they had not restarted it until Trump had torn up the JCPOA, like he says here. He didn't claim Iran was currently close to a bomb, but suggested that it could quickly resume if the JCPOA ever expired. How convenient that on September 27th, he accused Iran of maintaining a secret atomic warehouse in Tehran, which is bullshit, implying ongoing nuclear weapons work despite the JCPOA. Weapons inspectors had come in and seen that there was nothing. That's nonsense. On September 9th, a year later, he claimed that a site in Abadan, Iran, where he said experiments where nuclear weapons had occurred, though he hoped that Iran destroyed it after Israel discovered it. Yeah, because they would have spent all that money and time to develop their own program and then destroy it just hearing that Israel discovered it. Without ever anybody seeing it or presenting any evidence that it existed, they would just destroy it in advance. Again, these claims lacked evidence of an imminent bomb. U.S. intelligence and the IAEA also found no violation of the JCPOA at the time and seemed aimed at undermining the deal, especially after the U.S. withdrew from it in 2018. Oh, yeah, we did. We tore it up. Now, Netanyahu finally admits that Netanyahu is claiming that Israel has delayed but not stopped Iran's path to nuclear weapons, claiming that they were again days away from enriching the uranium required for a bomb. It's been 7 years. Like, it's...
Why you always lying?
Stop fucking lying. Hell yeah, man.
Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
They can't. That's literally, they can't. So this is significant. It is a significant escalation in rhetoric, okay, as it's the shortest timeline he's ever given, because he realizes that he's closer than ever to actually achieving his goal of goading the U.S. into war with Iran, in my opinion. All right. However, of course, independent verification supports this claim as of April 24th of this year. No surprise there either. He's still pulling it out his asshole.
Funny how that works.
The IAEA has not reported Iran enriching uranium beyond 60%, and we all know that weapons grade is 90%. And experts estimate that Iran would need months, not days, to produce a bomb, even at that stage, which they've never indicated they're still trying to do, even with Hezbollah and the Houthis and Syria going down and everything that's happened on the world stage and all the bluster and all the threats of attacks by Israel. They still have not indicated that they're going to do this, and they haven't created a program publicly to do it, even though they are well within their rights at this point. He says this statement aligns with Netanyahu's pattern of using urgent language to push for action, but its timing amid ongoing tensions and U.S.-Iran nuclear talks suggests a strategic motive rather than a grounded assessment. Yeah, I agree with that. So he breaks it down and says that Netanyahu's repeated claims span over 3 decades without fail. These claims feature timelines that fail to materialize every time. His 92 prediction of 3 to 5 years has been echoed in various forms. Right? In 2009, in 2012, even this year, yet Iran has still never produced one nuclear weapon in 30 years. He would say that that's because of their efforts, but that's not what's going on. If they ever really tried, they would do it. They'd achieve their goals. I think they were closest when Israel planted that virus across, I think it was in 2013 or 2014, just before the JCPOA got signed. They had a nuclear program that they were planning, and there was some computer virus that was planted across all of their nuclear offices, and it blew up their entire nuclear program. It melted everything down, allegedly. All right?
Allegedly.
All right? Nobody knows what's really true because nobody's really on the inside. Intelligence from his own agencies like the 2012 Mossad report and international bodies like the IAEA often contradict his public statements, suggesting again he may be exaggerating the threat to achieve political goals. You think? Such as derailing nuclear deals,
IAEA.
Justifying military action, or right? That's not that would be the worst video game company ever. Or rallying domestic support. That's the other thing. Look, or trying to alleviate charges publicly, domestically for himself. Moreover, the broader context reveals a complex interplay of motives. Why? All right. Iran's nuclear program has advanced since the U.S. exited the JCPOA in 2018, a move that Netanyahu supported, but it's still not at the weapons-grade threshold after 7 years. But yet, for some reason, right now, Netanyahu wants to fearmonger that they're closer than ever. Again, Iran insists its program is for peaceful purposes and for power generation. While it has the technical know-how to pursue a bomb, there's no evidence it has done so since 2003, per U.S. intelligence assessments. Our own spies are saying that. Netanyahu's focus on Iran also distracts from Israel's own nuclear arsenal, which remains undeclared and uninspected, a point often raised by Iranian officials like Mohammad Javad Zarif, and also admitted to by Alan Dershowitz just today. Right? So, again, conclusion, while he's provided specific timelines, they haven't borne out. Contradictions with intelligence assessments suggest a pattern of exaggeration or outright lies. His statements appear strategically timed to influence U.S. policy, undermine nuclear agreements, or bolster his domestic standing rather than reflecting a precise actual threat. They even literally took out diplomats in Iran and got almost no response. Without independent corroboration, their claims should be approached with skepticism. That's healthy skepticism, given the high stakes of military escalation in the region. So again, fuck Bibi, fuck Israel, because they're trying to goad us into a war that they've been trying to goad us into for 3 fucking decades. And this is the guy who's single-handedly been trying to do it.
Yeah.
Now, this definitely belonged in Fuck Israel, and it's going to be really depressing, and I'm sorry, but Aya from Challenge the Narrative, ayauk.substack.com. I'm sorry, that was the wrong
Coming
thing.
to a Substack newsletter near you.
That's the one I wanted. All right. In a world of tears, we slowly drown. And just showing just some of the horrors since the ceasefire was lifted that Israel has inflicted on Palestinian children. Saba and Sana, where they look like they're like 4, maybe 5. Twins. Born together, murdered together. Disgusting. This one's bad. This child dead on the floor and no one to collect her body because everyone's dead. Yep. Or this baby, oh God. Thrown from one building to another in a blast and split in half. I'm very sorry. This is not blurred out. This is a child. One child. Split into 2 parts. If the images from the past 24 hours don't wake people up, nothing will. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to show this. That's 2 halves of a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you gave this child food now, they would never recover. Their brain will be irreversibly damaged. Because look, famine is spreading in Gaza. Gaza doesn't have enough food for the children. 8 weeks of blocking all aid in and out. While the world full of food is watching and doing nothing. Well, not doing nothing. We're watching Israel block the trucks and nobody's stopping them. This child has no one because the fuckers killed his mother. And this is London.
They might put bullets in aid bags, so...
Mm-hmm. And this is London, where people protesting for the above to stop are arrested and imprisoned, and those who illegally fly post by sticking on lampposts I love IDF stickers can do so freely and openly, supporting a genocidal army of child rapists and murderers. Some non-genocidal person tried to remove the sticker, but the fucker was stuck on so tight they couldn't. Don't worry, though. There are plenty of other lampposts that have them. Okay, that's this. I heart the IDF. Really?
Right.
As humans of the earth do nothing, even the animals are getting fed up of this evil shit. Yes, there was a shark attack on an Israeli army reservist, and then they claimed that all sharks were Hamas. I heard the shark spit him back
rare,
out.
by the way.
I heard the shark spit him back out. Oh, there were all kinds of funny jokes made about that. It's nothing to laugh about. It's sad that shark eating people, but if they're going to eat somebody, baby murderers are a good place to start. All right. Oh, yeah, it was a guy who served in Unit 8200, too, Battalion 8207. So, another Israeli super spy tech guy taken out by a shark. Thanks, sharks. We are such a complete failure in humanity that we have redefined the world, as Aya says. To be human means to be useless, incapable, uncaring. I don't know what else there is to say, and I don't either. I'm kind of stuck and at loss for words, and I'm going to lean on Caitlin here, who says they're ripping kids in half right in front of us and telling us that we need to be mad at Kneecap and Miss Rachel. Fuck Israel. And so I'm going to bring...
Which I'm mad at Kneecap for capitulating and going, we never support Hamas or Hezbollah. But those IRA balaclavas are fine. Okay.
So Caitlin and Tim, Caitlin wrote her latest one, or one of her latest says, nobody say fuck Israel, free Palestine. So I'm going to let Tim do this one. This is a short one. It's about 2.5 minutes, and I adore them, and this is great. And I'll scroll along.
Nobody say fuck Israel, free Palestine.
Here.
Nobody say fuck Israel, free Palestine. Saying fuck Israel, free Palestine is very offensive to people who think genocide is good. When you say fuck Israel, free Palestine, you are hurting the feelings of the people who believe it's fine to bomb every hospital in Gaza. So you must never, ever say fuck Israel, free Palestine. Who do you think you are, saying fuck Israel, free Palestine? Don't you know that by saying fuck Israel, free Palestine, you are causing the people who applaud the deliberate starvation of an entire civilian population to become emotionally upset? Instead of saying fuck Israel, free Palestine, you should try putting yourself in the shoes of the tender-hearted individuals who support the complete ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. They're just minding their own business, merrily celebrating the carpet bombing of a giant concentration camp full of children, and then you come along and ruin their day by saying, fuck Israel, free Palestine. What a cruel and hateful thing that would be. I mean, all they are doing is cheerleading the mutilation, evisceration, and incineration of children, and the assassination of journalists and medical workers, and the systematic destruction of civilian infrastructure, and the complete flattening of an entire region whose population they are methodically exterminating via bullets, bombs, starvation, and disease. It's not like they're doing anything nasty or disgusting, like saying offensive words. Offensive words like fuck Israel, free Palestine. So don't say fuck Israel, free Palestine. Under no circumstances should anyone ever say fuck Israel, free Palestine. And they must certainly never say fuck Israel, free Palestine as many times as they possibly can, every single day until Palestine is free, and get everyone else to say it constantly as well. Again, the phrase you must avoid saying at all costs is fuck Israel, free Palestine. Fuck Israel, free Palestine.
Remember, you got that? Nobody's allowed to say fuck Israel, free Palestine.
What do you say when fuck Israel, free Palestine isn't enough?
Well, Israel doesn't have the right to exist.
More importantly, what do you do?
Well, BDS to start.
It's going to need something done. That'd help.
Yeah. Well, you got to do something. And we are certainly not doing nothing. Showing the horrors to the people that deny it or want to bury their head in the sand is something. Making them face it and deal with it. I don't know how much that really has any effect on them. Honestly, I think they're monstrous. A lot of them are monstrous people, or they are just unable to rationalize or come to grips with the fact that they have been enabling and empowering and even encouraging this. And the ones that are owning it, man, they are just unabashed about it. And it's so gross to see. Well,
real disgusting.
Yep. So we certainly will not be monetized for showing a segment like that. So if you are able to and you can support independent media, please do. The best ways to do that are Cash App, $, Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. You can subscribe monthly or annually at innnewsletter.com for free or for a monthly subscription for some money if you can. Thank you so much, really. Yeah, where's that's White Gladys's cousin? I don't know. I hope so. They're awesome. That shark, baby shark, do eating soldiers, do. Let's do that more, do. I saw a sign also. I think it was in Thailand. There was a sign on a window that basically said IDF soldiers not welcome. And we'll call the cops basically.
Which will only be used to like, look, it's an anti-Semitic.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So Golden Monarch, I agree. Horrible. I mean, I hated showing those images. I think that, again, we have to show them. You cannot turn away. This is the people. Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Fred.
Hey.
I hope PayPal will actually allow your donation to go through. Fred says you're not allowed to say fuck Israel, free Palestine. That's right. And he's got a bunch of flags on there. $5. Thanks, Fred. Love you, man. Hilarious, but at the same time, not hilarious at all. Yeah, that gets us to 37% of our $2,000 goal towards the year. So thank you for that. Support independent media because we need it more than ever, folks. Love you all. See you soon.
Keep listening to what little birds have to tell you. Good night, fam.
Bye, Felicia.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen? 50,000 died, and now we know our mission. We form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.
Who are these people?
Homes of pro-Palestine activists were raided by the FBI in Michigan. Right? What happened? My screen went black. Okay, it's back. Good.
Why did your... There you go.
It's flicker.
You got it.
I'm okay.
Everything's good.
We're good. No, it's still black, but that's okay. I don't need it. You can see it. All right. So what happened is a Democrat executed this warrant or this whole search This is out of Left Voice, Indie Media Award honoree, by the way. The best of the best, indiemediaawards.substack.com. Thank you very much. All right. On Wednesday, the FBI, Michigan State Police, and local police, all the piggies working together, raided the homes of multiple pro-Palestine activists in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, and Canton. Those who were detained include a member of the Graduate Workers Union of University of Michigan. So this is a further continuation of persecution of students. The raids were at the request of AG Dana Nessel. I believe she used to be a congresswoman. She's currently seeking felony charges against 11 pro-Palestine protesters. All right. This is yet another example that the attacks on democratic rights and the pro-Palestine movement are bipartisan. Right. Because both sides are being paid by AIPAC. Weeks before, an immigration attorney who is also representing the pro-Palestine protesters, Amir Makhled, was temporarily detained by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials after he returned from a trip abroad. So we see a theme happening here, a pattern. Why am I hearing myself? I think you're too close to the mic, Reeve. All right. Thank you. In Ypsilanti, FBI agents refused to show a warrant, broke down the door, and entered guns drawn. And I can't show that. I can't show that TikTok because I'm not logged in, and I think you either have to be or they pulled the video down. I'm not sure. But Attorney General Nessel's actions are proof that the movement against Trump and his far-right admin must be class independent and organized and controlled from below. Agreed. In fact, it is precisely the actions of Democratic officials like Nessel who've laid the groundwork for Trump's full frontal attack on international students, academic institutions, and the Department of Education. Again, totally agree here. They're not saying anything that is incorrect. Right? It is bipartisan. The Democrats did set the Republicans up to be able to do all these things. To beat these reactionary attacks, students and workers need to unite their struggles, but they're not, including fighting these felony charges against pro-Palestine protesters in Michigan. We need a united national struggle, coordinated and organized from below. That sounds kumbaya, wonderful, but that's not, again, what's happening. Right now, the pro-Palestine protesters need solidarity. One way people can do that is by calling Nessel's office and demanding that she drop the charges. Okay, a strongly worded letter via telephone. Another way is to pack the court on April 24th. That was last Thursday. We should also look to use the upcoming May Day actions in Detroit. They're apparently planning some kind of a one-day general strike, right? And all across the country to fight a united movement, fighting to end genocide in Palestine and the attack on immigrant communities and international students, and put a stop to Trump's authoritarian and austerity-driven agenda through self-organization and class independence. I don't know if I agree that it's an austerity-driven agenda. They may cut social services, but they're not going to be cutting overall budgets. So how is that austerity? They're going to give massive tax cuts and invest heavily in the military. That's not austerity to me. So, but them coordinating a massive raid with no warrant. Now here, I think they did say that they raided it and that there was they're seeking felony charges. So I guess they got a warrant because there's been a lot of these no warrant things. Plus there's even been stories of in immigration court, children and toddlers representing themselves without lawyers. That's a whole other story. But again, bipartisan. Both sides are for this. So this is, again, at a Left Voice, and you've got the Trump admin with the help of Democrats raiding pro-Palestine protesting grad students, etc. Oh, man. So, yeah. We get censored for stories like that. We are demonetized on YouTube for stories like that. I heard a couple of people talking about this raid, but not very many, unfortunately. Yeah, guns drawn. All right. They've never shown any violence or weapons. It's a mess. All right. Colorado People's News has been all over the thing with Dana Nessel. Now we know why Gretchen Whitmer was in the Oval Office last week. Is she still governor? I didn't think she was still governor. I guess she is. Yeah, that could be why she was there. Quite possibly. I mean, I think that they also wanted to try to do something with her. I mean, again, uniparty, and they're all controlled by the same donors. Support independent media because we need it more than ever, folks. Love you all. See you soon.
Keep listening to what little birds have to tell you. Good night, fam.
Bye, Felicia.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
You can keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen? To 50,000 died, and now we know our mission. We form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.